All right, how's it going, everybody? My name is Marty Kier. Today we're out here with Shift Colorado Magazine, and we are checking out the 2023 Lexus LC 500. I'm super excited to tell you guys about this car. It's pretty damn special, and yeah, do not sleep on these. They are very cool. Been driving it since the morning, and honestly, I don't have really any complaints. So I'll tell you guys what I think about it. We'll go over the specs and what to expect in a car like this. But yeah, let's go ahead and start it off. So this comes with a naturally aspirated 8-cylinder. It's a 5.0 V8, which is awesome, especially in this day and age. And it sends that all to the rear wheels. It is much more of a luxurious sports car experience, kind of like a Grand Touring, but it seriously delivers in so many different ways. But yeah, that big old 8-cylinder in the front, it's got 471 horsepower and 398 foot-pounds of torque. MSRP on one of these bad boys starts off right around 95,600. But yeah, the car itself weighs about 4,340 pounds, so for it being considered a sports car, it is on the heavier side, but once you consider all the luxurious things, it seems like it is hella worth it. But yeah, let's go ahead and start off with the exterior of the car. So first thing that you'll notice about this car is that it does appear similar to the Lexus LFA. Of course, very different cars, very different purposes, but I will say the sci-fi design on this is killer. It looks so cool. Like if we look back here at the lights in the back, they're just so unique. It's such a cool and interesting design. It's very, very eye-catching. And dare I say it, it's actually got a low-slung supercar kind of look, which is great. But yeah, the front lights are also super sharp and very modern looking. They do have accent LED lighting, which I am always a huge sucker for. And that big old grille in the front isn't so big and atrocious like some other brands. I think the whole overall concept and the overall design comes together perfectly on this car. And does it turn heads? Most definitely it does. I've gotten plenty of head turns, plenty of points, some people asking me questions and so forth. So on an exterior standpoint, I think that's a huge win. Now, one thing that is actually very cool, and I didn't notice it at first, is that the roof, it's actually carbon fiber, or like a carbon fiber look. I don't know if it's real carbon fiber or not, but either way, I love it. I really like having that accent up there. It really sets the whole car off. But yeah, it's also got these side vents, which are right next to the door. I don't know if those are functional or not, but from a design perspective, I love it. Just adds a little bit of aggressiveness to it. Now, as for the wheels of the car, they actually look pretty good from factory. I believe these are 21-inch wheels, which they are pretty massive, but it works super well with the exterior of the car. And yeah, they really don't look bad. Even the fitment isn't that bad from the factory. So wheels get a thumbs up from me. Now, in terms of reliability and mechanical, electrical, and so forth, wear items, from what I have heard, this engine has been used in a variety of other Lexus vehicles and even some other brands. I believe it was even in the Hilux at one point. But yeah, the engine itself seems like it won't have any issues, which is really nice. I haven't read anything particular with people saying that these are breaking down left and right, which is good. But yeah, that basically covers the entire exterior and what I really like about the car. Now we can take a look at the interior. Okay, so looking at the interior of this car, one of the main things that people always talk about is headroom. This car seems like it's got plenty of headroom. I'd say once you maybe start pushing like 6'5" or maybe around there, you might have some issues with this roof line, but otherwise it's very spacious in here, and it's a very pleasant place to be. But yeah, in terms of storage, the trunk in this car is sizable. You can put a lot in there. Honestly, I think it would be perfectly fine as a daily driver, as long as you're not hauling around kids or something like that. But yeah, it's very practical back there. I don't think those rear seats fold down. If they do, just correct me in the comments. But I couldn't really figure out a way to get them to fold down, but that's okay because that trunk, again, is pretty damn massive. So not let down there at all. I've been driving in this pretty much all day, and the seats are bolstered nicely. They're made out of really good material. They have a really nice design to them. They've even got lumbar support and a couple of other options, which is always a plus. That lumbar support, I think it just makes this car an absolute road trip machine. Now, as for the general quality of the materials in the interior, it's really, really good. It seems to be all leather. It might be a faux leather, I haven't looked it up, but it feels so nice. And the headliner, good God, that is luxurious. It's like a suede or maybe an Alcantara of some kind, but it feels amazing. And that's actually placed elsewhere in the car, like the door panels. Yeah, these door cards are actually amazing too. They've got this wonderful scalloped look to them. It looks like a piece of artwork, if I'm being honest. I think it might be my favorite thing about the interior is the door cards. They're just absolutely beautiful. As for like the buttons and how the shifter feels, how the door handles feel, how the steering wheel feels, all very positive. It all feels fantastic when you are trying to navigate somewhere. If you're just trying to turn up the AC, it's awesome. I don't really know how else to describe it. It's very luxurious, and it feels great. As for the tech in this car, it's definitely loaded with it. Like, you've got backup camera, you've got sensors for parking, you've got sensors for security, you've got CarPlay if you use that, and then the navigation looks super good as well. You can even switch between a bunch of different driving modes. Like, there's sport mode, there's sport plus mode, normal. I think you can even customize your own driving mode, which is pretty cool. And then there's comfort and eco. I've driven in all the modes today. I didn't make a custom one, but each one is noticeably different. So my only gripe is that in sport mode plus, or sport plus mode, I kind of wish the exhaust would get a little bit louder. I don't know if that would be possible or not, but yeah, I mean, overall, on the interior, I give it an absolute 10 out of 10. Super pleasant place to be. Just real cool details and easy to find what you need. So that's kind of all you want in an interior, especially with a car like this. I was getting ready to leave, and I'm noticing more and more about this car as I spend time with it. Check this out, right on the side, you've got, it almost looks like forged carbon. I don't know if that's actually what it is, but that's super cool to see there. Yeah, very cool. All right, let's check out the driving experience. Okay, so for the driving experience, I've had this for basically the whole day, so I'm sure there's other things that I would notice if I had it for like a full week or something, but based on what I can tell, overall this is definitely more of a luxurious experience. I wouldn't say it's like a raw sports car by any means, but that's actually a good thing in my book. Each car has its own personality, and this one just happens to look good, sound good, and drive very comfortably. I'm sure you could change that up to your liking with some you know, more stiff suspension or something later on down the line. We can definitely start with how it feels on the acceleration. Put it into sport here, and yeah, for it being a V8, it gets up and goes perfectly fine. You're probably never going to be able to use the full horsepower amount on the streets. I definitely wouldn't. I mostly drive my cars super slow around town, and then going to the track, that's when you can actually test it safely. But yeah, plenty of acceleration from the big old 8-cylinder up there, and real nice but subtle burble from the factory. Now, going around just a couple of, very easy turns here, you do feel a little bit of body roll, but that's kind of standard in, any kind of car that's from the factory. It feels a lot like what I would imagine like a Rolls-Royce or a Bentley would feel like. Very cloudy, very floaty, which again, for a luxury vehicle, that's a big plus. It handles potholes like nothing. Not that I was deliberately throwing this thing in the potholes, but you get what I mean. In terms of brakes and stopping power, it's got some really good sized brakes on there, and as it should. The car weighs, over 4,000 pounds, so yeah, it should have some pretty big brakes on there to stay safe. I will have only one complaint with the braking. With a lot of new cars, they tend to be like way too touchy, or they tend to be way too soft. This one is almost perfect. I would say that the braking feel is just slightly too soft, but really it's such a minor complaint. I think that can be overlooked, and I'm sure you'd get used to it more as you drive it. As for visibility, that is actually really good. One of the main things that we were worried about when we were taking this car was that those windows actually didn't exist, and it was just a big old blind spot back there and, giant pillars, but not the case at all. The windows on the sides are like perfect in terms of visibility for my preferences. The rear window is gigantic compared to what I'm used to. But yeah, overall, I feel super safe in the car, and can see around perfectly fine. Another thing on the visibility note is that the mirrors are nice and big, and they do have those fancy dancy blind spot monitors, which I actually love those. I will say, I think it's just because I've only owned the car for one day, but I don't really have a good feel of what the dimensions are, so when I'm traveling around in a parking lot, I feel like I really have to watch out because I don't want to like curb the wheels or something. But that's probably just a new car issue, and I'm not used to the dimensions and how it behaves yet, so I give that one a benefit of the doubt. If you're worried about miles per gallon, I would say this is not the car for you. It's definitely more of a smiles per gallon type of deal. Given how advanced engines have gotten, it's still not that bad compared to older cars, so just bear that in mind if you're wanting something efficient. This model isn't it. I believe that there is a hybrid model of this car, which is pretty cool. So that could be something that you could check out if you're worried about miles per gallon. But then you lose that great exhaust note, so that's not fun. With a lot of quote-unquote muscle cars, and them being rear-wheel drive, one of my primary concerns with that kind of layout is fishtailing, and in this car I don't feel like that's as big of an issue just because of the technology that's behind it, and the traction control seems to save that. But just going around town, you can kind of tell when a car is fishtail leaning, or has a tendency to fishtail. Just around even a roundabout like this, you can kind of tell. But with this, it feels nice and planted, which is a very nice and comforting feeling. As far as driving position, the closest thing that I have to reference here is a Nissan GT-R. It does feel higher off the road than some of the other sports cars and supercars that are available right now. But again, that's not necessarily a bad thing in a car like this. We'll say this is the first time that I've driven a car with a little heads-up display. I don't know how to feel about it. Those kind of trip me out a little bit now that I'm looking at it more and more. But hell, if you like them, great. And if you don't, I feel like there's probably a way that you can turn that off, but don't quote me on that. As for the climate control system and just general infotainment, I didn't fuss around with that too much on this review, but I will say climate control is relatively easy to figure out. You don't have to fumble through a bunch of touchscreen options to get to that. It's actually a hard button, which is great. When I first got in the car, it was a little bit trippy because I didn't know that the button functioned up and down, and that's how you control the fan speed. So I was pressing it and I was like, why is it only going down? Like, why is the fan speed going down? And then I was showing it basically no fan speed for a little while. But I eventually found out by fiddling with it, if you just press the button from the bottom, like up towards the roof, that's how it's controlled, which is actually kind of a cool experience. I like that a lot. But I do like how the gauge kind of changes depending on what mode you're in. It's also really easy to read the gauges, nice and simple. It's not overly complex, which is great. Oh, in terms of clearance, while the car is very low slung and sporty looking, the clearance actually is not that bad. I was still taking things at a diagonal just to be safe with it all, but honestly, I think I probably could have taken a lot of bumps and curves straight on and been fine. As for how the transmission behaves, it's a 10-speed automatic, so you can barely feel the shifts, but they are still there, which is nice. The paddles are nice and gigantic, they feel good. Transmission seems to respond nicely to it. Nice and quick. Of course, being an auto enthusiast, I'm always going to want a manual version of this. That would be incredible if they ever made something like that. But anyways, I think that's going to do it for today and the review on the 2023 Lexus LC 500. Hopefully you found it helpful. Hopefully you found it entertaining. If not, let me know why in the comments below. But thank you guys so much for watching. Let's keep that subscriber growth going for Shift Colorado magazine, and we will see you in the next review.